Welcome to the debut episode on Lee Judges TV of the Magic Open Mic Show. This is not, Owen, how I intended for this to start. I'm thinking, FA Cup, we're going to win. We're going to talk about how great we are. We're going to wear white shirts, which you didn't participate in. And instead, we've got this. So welcome to the first Magic Open Mic Show. With zero magic today.
Yeah, when I come on, I was expecting that I would be on with the so named lead judges, but I thought to myself as soon as I see you, I thought that Jesus Christ, he's eaten too many quality streets over the Christmas period, and he's let himself go slightly. But no, I'm ever pleasantly surprised that I'm getting to spend more time with you. But what a nonsense performance! That was absolutely dreadful, and I would say I'm looking forward to breaking it down. But to be honest with you, it's going to be a sort of a bit of a heavy slug to try and break that absolute mess down.
Well, yeah, and the difference between this show now if you're a Lee Judges TV fan. If you haven't watched the Gooners podcast, this is something that we've been doing for about a season or so. The post-match open mic shows. It's an opportunity for you to have your say. Look, win, lose, or draw, whatever the case may be, we want your opinions. And while I'd always prefer a win, we still want to get your opinions, positive, negative, players, coach, substitutions, whatever the hell you want to talk about. And so there is a total of about 8 spots open in the what I call the red room, which is our backstage area. All you have to do to participate in this show is go to GoonerOpenMic.com. It's GoonerOpenMic.com. Look at it; it's on your screen right now, and you'll be able to join the queue in the backstage area. We'll bring you on for a few minutes. You decide the topic. We'll help out if you need a topic, but feel free to join the show. And I was thinking of debuting a new character for this. The next time we lost a game was going to be Mad Dog Mike, because I'm generally fairly positive about overall things. Would you say? I mean, I try to look at the bright side when it comes to Arsenal.
Positive, yeah.
And but apparently, if things go wrong, you have to be stark raving mad. So if I start screaming and I wake my son up from his nap, and he's 18, he's not like four months old or anything like that. But it's going to be the Mad Dog Mike character coming out. But so yeah. Before we get started, I just want to say we would have won that game if they had a new rule, which I've been supporting for years, which is when you shoot it wide and it bounces off the advertising hoardings and comes back and hits the goal really hard, and like for some people, it looks like that should be worth half a goal. I think.
Rob Holding can't even manage to hit the advertising boards rather than the corner flags. Yeah, Jesus Christ,
that's another issue altogether. So yeah, we're open. GoonerOpenMic.com. We've just gone out of the FA Cup. We either win the thing or we lose in the third round to Nottingham Forest. I mean, those are the two options basically for how the FA Cup goes. So yeah. If you're in the chat again, GoonerOpenMic.com. We've got some spaces open and join us. Today we're going to bring in live from Australia, Max. We've had some happy chats in the last few weeks, but I have a feeling today is not going to be such.
No, not at all.
I mean, I hate to always say, like, who do you blame as soon as we lose? But, we saw a situation where Arteta's gotten a lot of praise for how he's handled the last few weeks. We've started to beat teams that we should beat by a considerable margin. We've started to play better against some other, some of the top teams. And then today, just what do you think happened?
Mike, there is literally no excuses that I can come up with that's going to be good enough. The team played like absolute fucking garbage, and so excuse my language, but honestly, it's just it's not good enough. I've said for a long time that Eddie Nketiah is not the striker answer up front. Why he played, I don't even know. These are the questions you gotta ask yourself. Like, why wasn't Lacazette starting at the start? The midfield looked absolutely weak without Granit Xhaka. Whether you like or hate him or not, he brings stability to our midfield, and it's only compounded the fact that we need midfield reinforcements with Thomas Partey and El Neni up to AFCON. During the game, I was praising Arteta because he saw a problem with left back. He took Tavares off and he brought Kieran Tierney on, which we sort of gave some sort of composure of somewhat towards the end of the first half. We had chances, and how Eddie Kenny missed that header, God only knows. I just. I don't know. I don't know where to begin, Mike. Honestly, I just.
Well, Max, let me ask you a question then, because we're going to try to keep it to like 3 or 4 minutes a person on this show today. You've said that you mentioned the elephant in the room, which is the first half substitution. Now, seeing how the game ended up, I don't think we can point to that as being necessarily a flashpoint in the game one way or the other, but. Taking Lokonga off, taking off Nuno Tavares, who was not injured, taking him off for tactical reasons, for absolute poorness reasons in the first 30 minutes of the game or so for Tierney. How do you think that impact? I mean, were you in favor of that move? Were you not? Because I've talked to people who basically were like, that needed to happen. And I've talked to people that said he just destroyed Nuno Tavares. So what's your take on that specific element?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm going more of the standpoint it needed to happen. We were poor. The whole team were poor. Everyone was poor. The only one who actually had a decent game was Bernd Leno, and to be fair, he didn't have much to do, if any, really.
He actually kept us in the game until about the 80th minute.
Yeah, we're clearly lacking physical play, and Forest is a very physical team. You can see that from how they were playing. When we have no Gabriel there, we can see there's a problem. When we have no Xhaka there, with no physical dominance like Thomas Partey or Granit Xhaka there, we can see it's a problem. And we have no one to pass the ball up to that can stick a ball. And I'm just wondering whether Vlahovic is going to be looking at this deal and going, having some question marks, because because now that Tottenham game is a must win. And this is the thing, if we have ambition of getting a top 4, we need midfield reinforcements, and we need another striker, and Ndidi is not good enough for Arsenal. And I'm sorry, there is no excusing that performance. And I'm taking very, very deep breaths to calm down in more ways than one to, because I woke up at 4 a.m. to watch that game, 4 a.m. to watch that shower of shit, and I feel like I should have slept in bed, honestly, because honestly that was absolute rubbish.
It was. It's hard to try to find a positive out of that situation. The only thing you can really do, Owen, is try to put it in perspective of what that means. I'm angry, I've often said, and this, Owen, that I'll celebrate a win, any win in any competition in any fashion, like we've just won the Champions League, because I like to be happy about when we do well. The same really ought to be true in the short run. I mean, again, it doesn't mean that everything's okay. When we squeak by in a 90th minute of a Europa League group stage game last year and we're 14th in the league, I'm happy in the moment, but I'm not happy overall. In this situation, I'm very unhappy in the moment, but I'm not, I'm not undoing everything that's happened in the last 6 to 8 weeks or so as far as my confidence in this club. I think this was just an absolute fiasco today, but that happens to clubs. So, Owen, let's hear your take on it.
Look, I'm quite conflicted when I look at this result, because obviously, much like Max on the back of the performance, I'm slightly salty in terms of the lack of effort, the lackluster performance that was seen. We were completely disjointed, completely lethargic, and I think we reverted back to something that I've often said that Arsenal have been guilty of in years past, which is walking out onto the pitch automatically thinking that you've got the result in the bag, just thinking that goals are going to make themselves. And unfortunately, that didn't happen today. What I would say is that it reinforces the point that I think a lot of people are making in the chat, and something that I would have thought prior to this game, which is that we have a very good starting 11 at the minute when everybody's available. Even a couple of subs, we've seen Emile Smith-Rowe coming on and making massive impacts in recent games. But the drop off in certain positions is so massive. I mean, Cedric Soares today was an absolute nightmare, I thought, only for us not having an alternative at right back. I think that he maybe would have been taken off around the same time as Nuno Tavares. Another thing as well is, and let me sort of drop this in before I mention this, is that I have all the understanding of why this player maybe wouldn't have hit the ground running, and I've got time and he's a kid and this, but I think Charlie Patino was a bit of a passenger in that game for long periods. I think that tactically he didn't really understand what his position was. He was sort of caught in no man's land a lot of the time, and his mobility, I think, maybe could have been dragged into question in that game. But again, very young kid. I wasn't expecting him to go out and control a game on his first full debut. But look, all in all, what I mean by conflicting is I want Arsenal to win every game. I want them to go for every single bit of silverware, but with the caveat of that our starting 11 is so good. Is it a good thing that we're losing this distraction and losing this bit of congestion so that we can really make that push for top four? This could end up being a good thing in the long run. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just trying to sort of.
Well, it's the way to rationalize and cope with it. Max, before we move on, I mean, do you put this down to just players who aren't used to playing together and aren't our first team, with a few exceptions? Or do you think that Mikel Arteta has and should share some of the blame on this today?
I think personally, for me, I think that there is definitely some shared blame in both equally. I think what Aaron was touching upon. I think our first team is really good, but I think we can now see that our secondary team or B team is not quite as good as our first team, and there are players there that obviously are very sort of still under the Arsene Wenger period of players, and they have a very, very weak mentality, and it's just like, and you obviously there's some players that are young. I'm not going to butcher Charlie Patino. I'm not going to butcher all these young players, because obviously they got bags of potential, but they're clearly not ready. Balogun's obviously clearly not ready, so that's why he's going to Middlesbrough. Charlie Patino is clearly not ready to go in the first team. Yes, he scored a goal, but he's still a young kid after all, and all that kind of stuff. So, and I just want to quickly touch on one last thing as well, what Aaron was saying. I think if you look at our left back situation, the difference between Kieran Tierney and Tavares, there's not much of a drop off. But if you look at our right back situation, the difference between Tommy Aston and Cedric is literally light years between the difference. And this is the thing that we need to understand. There is going to be ups and downs with this club, and I'm not going to take away from the fact that the last couple of weeks have been really decent. The Man City performance was such a high, and then obviously to come crashing down like this, I'm not going to go rip into them too much, but that's not going to excuse their atrocious performance today in any way, shape, or form. And I just want to say that I always love coming on your stream, but this is not one of those times that I'm going to be loving coming on your stream this week. That's for sure. But thanks.
I certainly enjoy myself more when we win. I don't think that that's a unique thing, but it's important to get the poison out of our systems when we lose as well. So, we want to hear from people whether they're happy or angry. We don't want to be, an all ranting angry show. We don't want to be an all echo chamber happy show either. I mean, this is live reaction, and that's what we got. So Max, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thank you.
Take care, and maybe now you can get some sleep.
I certainly hope so. Thank you.
Mate, take care. All right. So, by the way, one of the major talking points today is, with our midfield as thin as it is, why did we allow Ainsley Maitland-Niles to go to Roma yesterday as opposed to tomorrow? Now, Ainsley Maitland-Niles played today for Roma.
Mm-hmm.
You want to speculate where he played on the pitch?
Up front.
No,
Midfield.
right back.
Right back.
Right back. Next to Chris Smalling and behind Mkhitaryan. So his Roma career has started with a 4-3 loss against Juventus. Now I don't know how he played necessarily, but yeah, right back for Roma. So he's off to clearly playing where he feels most comfortable. I mean, what the hell is that all about? But yeah, I mean, Patino starting today. You didn't think he was going to boss the game, did you?
No,
hope
never.
that he could kind of get through it.
Yeah, it's and I'll elaborate on just what I was saying very quickly before we bring in our next guest. It isn't so much that I was having a go at how he presented himself or what he done on the ball. It's just that I think that tactically he was just a bit all over the place. Maybe didn't know the system well enough. And look, there's a big change in pace from youth academy football up to the men's senior side. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops over the next couple of months or the season.
Well, let's get in and see how Daniel S develops here on the chat. Daniel's next to join us. Good to see you again, my friend. How you doing?
Well, I'm not like raging per se. Like I'm just crestfallen.
I mean that sucks, right? I mean,
yeah.
Not to be too Yankee about it, but it sucks. I mean,
yeah. Is there let's try, and I know that we're all pretty negative right now, Daniel, but let's try and pull it back to some form of a positive. Is there any player on that pitch that can walk away with their head held high? Is there anybody that you look to think, do you want to know what, you put in everything, you tried your best, and it just wasn't your night?
There's one and it ain't going to do him any good, right, Daniel?
Bern Leno, maybe, like with the fantastic save that he made. And just what you said before about AMN, like playing right back for Roma today. He's moaned for years that he doesn't want to play there. Thoughts on the game? I mean, that goal was always going to come, always. As soon as I saw Graham come on, I thought, yeah, goal. Something's going to happen. And it did. The only player that can hold his head up high is our goalkeeper, who didn't have too much to do apart from that free kick save and picking the ball out of the net.
But what was it, Daniel? We talk about a lethargic performance. Where were we lackadaisy? What could we have done? We talk about just the general approach, the general energy, but tactically, what could we have corrected to make that game better? I think we were very lackluster, maybe at pulling the trigger and passes forward, splitting the lines. Where do you think the problems lay?
Well, I praise Arteta for taking Tavares off when he did, because he was just getting skinned like all day long. I would have brought off Nketiah and put on Lacazette.
We had 5 subs today, right?
Mm-hmm.
We used 3.
We have 5.
Yeah, which is odd. And if that and about the whole Tavares situation, if it was normal 3 subs, he would not have come off until mid second half, most likely. But because it was 5. He came off way sooner, but then again, we only used 3. Mm-hmm. And when you're trying to when you're losing 1-0, 1-0, when we were losing 1-0, you bring on Kolasinac.
Yeah, I mean, who did we have that was really going to change the game in the attacking sense at that point on the bench? I'm not sure.
No one, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean the bench was kind of a hodgepodge of. I mean, it wasn't like
mishmash of
as we call in the Chinese food industry, a poo-poo platter of average players, not really significant upgrade.
But would it have been better to put Salah on, Salah Hadeen, Amari Hutchinson, somebody to turn around and say, "Look, kid, this is your opportunity to go out and try and make yourself a hero," rather than throwing minutes at a player who's really destined to leave the club, possibly even within the next few weeks.
Because you've got Nketiah, who's like got one foot out the door, doesn't really want to like the only times that he's going to the only time that he's now going to play this season is possibly Thursday against Liverpool.
I hope not. Although the League Cup is like, it equals a brace for Nketiah. Apparently, the same is not true with the FA Cup. We found that out today. It isn't just cups; it's just the League Cup, and just like the Emirates Cup, and just the USA Cup or whatever, the Florida Cup or whatever we almost played in. I think this is going to be, unfortunately, the one of the talking points of this game, which I saw as a positive at the time, but it's going to get a lot of play. Is what Sophie's saying in the chat. Everyone was rancid, but let's make an example of Nuno. Noon, a young player who'd been praised by fans for not hiding from his mistake. Massive failure today. The failure she's talking about, I think, is team wide, and I think from speaking to her real time during the game. Yeah, I know that she is. I know she was not a fan of kind of dressing down Nuno in that way. So before we move on, Daniel, I mean,
can we just throw this one over here? Just with super chat, and I'll throw this over to Daniel. Just so you can give us your quick thoughts before we let you go. It says we clearly need to sell some players. A bunch of them cannot be coached. Do you think that that's the case? That this is simply just part of the rebuild, that we're sort of going to have to just sit patiently and wait to see some of these players shipped out and upgraded replacements taken in?
I do agree that we do need to sell. Like some do have to go, but then again, because of the AFCON, in centre midfield at least, we're kind of spread a bit thin, because to put Patino in that game today, he was just a passenger in the game, and I do feel sorry for the guy before me who came on, Max, waking up at 4 a.m. local time there, and see that shambles of a performance.
Well, then cry for me, because I woke up at 3:45 a.m. today, not because I had to, but just because I woke up, passed out in a chair downstairs, and decided to move upstairs, and then I couldn't focus on anything other than the game. Everyone's waking up in the UK. I'm on Twitter. I'm like, I can't get back to sleep now. So don't cry for me, Argentina.
With your T-shirt, by the way.
No blood, no goals. No blood, no fam. Plenty of fam. This is not a anti-troops comment, by the way. It's I'm trying to support the overall message, while still being a complete jackass, which is kind of what I do. Daniel, appreciate you joining us, mate, and hope to see you next time after a better performance.
Yeah, I'll only come on when I'm actually able to watch a game. So then I can give a fair opinion. You know what I mean?
We like talking to people who didn't watch the game, kind of, because we can kind of they're more impression. We can kind of push our own agenda with those people. So, all right, man, take care, buddy.
All right, take care, mate.
All right. So we've got 140 people in the live stream. This is fantastic. Shocked at how few people. There's some spots open in the red room. So if you're in the chat, this is the opportunity to have your say. We want to.
If you have a face and a mouth and the capability of speaking, then we want to talk to you.
We do.
Is that right?
We do. I mean, we're lonely. We want to talk to people, And yeah. So while we have you, let's talk about you a little bit. Welcome. Thanks for again for Chichania for the kind super chat, which Owen and I get 0 of. Back from the dead, joining us today is Kirk Douglas. It's a pleasure. Your son's very talented, except he got the weird throat cancer thing in a very weird way. Mr. Miyagi's in the chat. Sophie from Highbury Squad. Daniel Robert, who we'll see in a few minutes. Lone Star Londoner. Sophie can pronounce this. Nicholas and let's see. Daddy Marinakis from Greece is in the house. Infamous investors who took all my money and lost it for me because they're infamous. Shawnee K is in the chat. Mr. Miyagi's in the chat. We've got some movie stars in here. Oh, and I told you that this was a good idea.
There's a Mank.
Hendon Gooner, RYN. Who else do we got? We got tons of people in here. So if you want to be on the main show, come into GoonerOpenMic.com. I'm going to take a quick minute, hopefully without losing you, because while we've got you, we want to talk to you about something that's amazing. If you haven't heard about this yet, there's Arsenal memorabilia. Arsenal store sells some. You can find some on some other merchants. There's a lot of stuff out there, but is there not a better piece of Arsenal memorabilia than the shirt that Gooners versus Cancer is selling right now? And not selling, but giving away. Oh, and if you answer this wrong, I'm going to be very mad at you. But
no, it's a couple of weeks back I described it as like invincible signed jerseys, whatever. This is the most unique, best piece of Arsenal memorabilia that I've ever seen.
So if you have 18 quid, which is about $25. Well, it is $25. It's about 18 quid. And you hate cancer, which is an important part of this. You have to hate cancer.
Mm-hmm.
No one who likes cancer is allowed to be in this. And you want to donate some money to help find the cure for cancer, and at the same time, give yourself a 1 out of 500 chance of winning an incredible piece of Arsenal memorabilia. Go to GoonersVCancer.com, and I'll show you exactly what you can win at GoonersVCancer.com, because this is there's nothing like this out there.
Good ball by Gibson. Finds Smith. The top charge to the midfield. Thomas. It's up for grabs now. Thomas. Right at the end.
Oh no, not this guy.
I always get really into the music there, but seriously, if you've got some money lying around and you want to have literally, those shirts aren't just sold. I actually had the help of Alan Smith, John Lukic, Lee Dixon, and Michael Thomas in signing that shirt with the parts of the Brian Moore commentary that apply to when they had the ball. And if you're old enough, and Daniel, I know you've done some research, but I know you're a fetus. But if 89 means anything to you, then that shirt should mean a lot to you, and you can get it while curing cancer. So, not to misuse the word cancer, but not a good performance today. Let's just call it that. Daniel's
Look,
actually
Daniel's
is
an
it a
actual.
statement that you're wearing the blood shirt?
Yeah, he was trying to do the whole white thing represent as well. But look, I think Daniel is the right man to dive into this because you're a sensitive soul, Daniel. The Nuno Tavares decision, look, it was a pretty sort of dull game all round. That was probably the biggest talking point to take away from that. Some people saying it was a brave decision from Mikel Arteta to take Nuno off so early in the game after what I would say was a horrendous performance from him. And other people criticising and saying, that there was other players that were equally as bad that went unpunished. What do you think the ramifications are from that possible decision to strip him off the pitch so early? And do you have faith in Mikel Arteta's man management abilities to rectify that situation with Nuno Tavares behind the scenes and, get things back to being nice and smooth?
I guess we are going to see one of two things. We're either going to see Tavares bounce back from this, or we're going to see him do a bit of an Aubameyang maybe. But totally time will tell. I kind of trust Arteta. I think he made the right decision because in the first 30 minutes, I think we were all dreadful, but Tavares especially just didn't put any energy and kept giving the ball away. And what I actually thought Arteta was doing is putting him out, which would kind of show something to the rest of the team. Actually, start playing properly. But it didn't happen. And that's what I'm a bit annoyed by because I thought doing something like that would really pull the team together. And I'm surprised it didn't. So that's
who was on the pitch that would have been like, you know what? Because there's a strange thing that happens, and I hate to yankerize this, but in professional ice hockey, when you're losing 2-3-0 or 2-3-0, a lot of times they'll take out the goaltender. Even if the goals are not necessarily his fault, they'll take out the goalie, and then the rest of the team feels like they've got to go pick him up, which means, you know what, it's 3-0, but it's only halfway through the game. We got a chance to rescue this guy and play better because we don't want him to have to take the blame. That there might have been kind of that element of that tonight, but the leadership on the pitch, all those. I mean, who from the leadership team was on there? Just Holding.
There wasn't much of a leadership group on there.
It was pretty disastrous, and even I think this would be interesting because there's almost 100 people watching live as well. If you can even throw into the live chat just to give us a sort of a gauge on how everybody's feeling, just with the simple answer, yes, was Mikel Arteta right to take Nuno Tavares off when he did, or no, was he wrong to do so? But Daniel, jumping back into the game, look, midfield obviously was an area that I think we were completely light. Do you think that this potentially accelerates the Arsenal's plans to act to bring in some centre midfield reinforcements during January? Because we now have Liverpool coming up, we've got Tottenham Hotspur coming up, we've got another game against Liverpool as well, and to be honest, we're looking quite light in that. And with the African Cup of Nations potentially going on as far as the 20th, I think the earliest is the 20th. Do you think that that's somewhere that we really need to reinforce with this sort of good position that we've got ourselves into at this stage of the season?
You would like to think so, but it means we have to react fast because our next game's on Thursday. And going into that Liverpool game, we've only got, especially if Xhaka still has COVID and it's not a false positive as Liverpool did. We've only got
suspected positive test.
Yeah, we've only got Lokonga and Patino, and if we play against Liverpool with them two, I'm not sure because I don't blame Patino for today. I think he just wasn't involved as much.
Finish that, but let me correct you on one thing. We didn't just have Lokonga and Patino. There, and we talked about this on Tanner's show pregame. There is another player who was fit to play today. He was on the bench.
Callum Chambers. That
could have played in kind of a defensive midfield position. Now, I'm not suggesting, Sophie, that Callum Chambers would have changed the game and that we would have won and so on and so forth. But I mean, there's a player who has plenty of experience in the Premier League playing defensive midfield, and he was left on the bench in favor of Charlie Patino. That surprised me a little bit. I mean, there's been no sign whatsoever that Arteta was ever going to use him in that position, Chambers. He seems comfortable using him, deputizing in right back as a third choice, but not in the sixth. But so I want you to talk about Patino's performance, but also I mean, what do you make of Chambers not even getting a sniff at the chance at playing in midfield?
I think Chambers, I know he has just recovered from COVID, so maybe he's got some kind of long-lasting effects from that. But I mean, if he's on the bench, he should be good enough to play 90 minutes. Patino, I think what it is that when Xhaka and Partey play in midfield, there's a trust in them. And from going from Ben White and Gabriel, I know he didn't play today, there's a trust in the midfield that they can play to them and kind of let the midfield play. Today, it was very much let Holding play that midfield role. And he's not that player. And so I don't think the players, the defenders, trust Patino and Lokonga. So it means they have to do it themselves, which kind of wipes away the midfield from the game. And that's how I think we played today.
And somewhere I thought that we lacked massively, Daniel, was up front. Eddie Nketiah obviously missed an absolute sitter, what would be considered a sort of standard header that you'd be betting him to score 9 times out of 10. But look, with him being included in this match today, that's him cup tied. Do you think that is potentially Mikel Arteta trying to maybe force Edu's hand to leave him at the club as a striking option? Do you think it's Mikel Arteta showing Eddie Nketiah that he still has faith in him and that he'd like him to stay? Or
now he can't go on loan, Dan, to your local Bournemouth.
Oh no, I'm gutted that they're not at home. But
but do you think that Eddie Nketiah has a future here? And do you think that he's up to the standard that we need to progress?
I mean, he's not good enough to be our number 9. Whether he's good enough to be the number 2 to the number 9, I don't know. He's still young. He's 22, I think. Mm-hmm. But it's a difficult one. You want to see him playing week in, week out, and he's not good enough to do that at Arsenal. So in my honest opinion, I would kind of put him a 5-year deal, send him out on loan, see what happens, because then at least you're protecting his value. But I also wouldn't be sad to see him go.
I mean, Nketiah is not going to sign a 5-year deal because he knows he's got no future here. Protecting his value, yes, I get that, but I think the time it's a little too late for that at this point.
I also don't think,
and I'm not quite sure what value we're protecting. I mean, he showed today with his face. I can't even call it a header because it was a facer. He looked, I mean, like when I played football, and this is going to be extremely hard to envision. I don't have the pictures, but I used to play football. I used to score buckets of goals. You can ask Gab Marcotti because he was my teammate back in our teenage years in London. That's actually true. I had pace. I could score goals. There were 2 things I couldn't do that kind of kept me from being a better player. One is I couldn't control the ball when it was at my feet, other than when I was shooting. And 2, I could not head the ball for shit. One time I scored off a header and I spent 5 minutes doing what was the goal we scored early this year where Odegaard was like, I don't think I've ever scored with my head before. Like I did that because like it went off the back of my head accidentally because I jumped up like this. Nketiah is, you would expect a guy with that amount of experience and that amount of goals to be better with his head.
Yeah, and he did have quite a few chances.
Horrendous at Everton and again today. I mean, he's no Olivier Giroud. Giroud would have scored that with his eyes closed and his penis hanging out. Is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, he had plenty of chances in Nketiah, and he just didn't take them. I also thought that Odegaard and Saka didn't really step up. I don't think they had a good game at all, and that's probably part of the reason we lost this game, because they weren't as good as they normally are. What I will say about Martinelli, I think he was trying, and I think just because their right back, Jed Spence, was just on another level today, I think that's the reason why we didn't get through. And I think what I would have done is maybe switched Martinelli on the right because he seemed up for it and Saka wasn't, and that might have been the way to get through, but that didn't happen.
There wasn't a ton of tinkering other than the early sub, and I'm more concerned about the lack of tinkering in the second half than I was about the early tinkering in the first half. But Daniel, we're going to move on to our next open micer. The last question I have for you, and it's the one I started with. Are you making a statement with your choice of wardrobe today? Because I mean, like, you're directly going against what the team's trying to do.
it is the only Arsenal kit I have at the moment.
It is a
but-
white kit,
Look-
but it's the one that looks like you've actually been a victim of knife fire.
Yeah, possibly. Maybe a bad choice. Maybe that's the reason we lost this game.
I think it is. I mean, I'm
I-
here to say that I think you're to blame.
I'll put my hands out for this one.
All right, man. Well, F you and no, we'll see you soon. Hopefully, again, brighter days ahead.
Yeah,
And
of course.
and thanks for joining us on the Open Mic Show.
It's been great, and I'm sure I'll see you both.
Actually, today because we lost, we're going to call it the Open Owen Show.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, I like that. That's better.
The Open Owen
Got it's got a better ring to it. That.
Yeah, it does. See? All right, there you go. All right, man. Take it easy. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, Dan.
All right, joining us next is Glitch. He's got his camera ready. He's ready to go, and I just wish we had a happier Glitch to talk to today. I haven't spoken to him yet, but I have a feeling there's going to be some frustration. But you know what? My goal with these shows is to start them, get out the poison. Let's figure out what we're going to do going forward. Let's figure out how we're going to maintain a lifestyle that isn't just angry. And come out of the show feeling better than we did going in. I can't promise anything. All right. But we're going to try. So, Glitch, welcome back to the show. It's good to see you, mate.
Yes, brother. How you doing?
I'm gutted. Honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been saying for years that there's nothing I love more than a deep run in a cup. I like going deep into cups. I do it once a year at the doctor's office. And this is just not. I'm starting to really not like Nottingham Forest.
I mean, I was bantering my Spurs mates, with the Morecambe game, and they turned that around, and I thought, oh yeah, we got this one. But no, diabolical, atrocious, inexcusable, I wouldn't even say shambolic. Shambolic would be, endearing. No, it wasn't even shambolic. It was just utterly, utterly diabolical.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other. And I wanted to say one thing. I am worried about our squad depth. I really am. I don't even really want to talk about the Nuno thing, and I don't really want. I mean, there's nothing to say about Nketiah. There's no way we're loaning him. We should just let him go and cut our losses, and that's all I'm going to say on that. Let him go. He doesn't want to be here.
We can't
Cut our
loan somebody
losses.
for the last 6 months of their contract. I don't think. I mean, that doesn't really work.
Last 6 months, yeah, but after that, I mean,
We did that.
No,
with
I
Menzo.
agree.
yeah. No. Of course. I'm not saying let him go tomorrow. I mean, at the end of the season,
Mm-hmm.
when his contract has expired. No, that would be absurd. Yeah. Let him go. Let him go at the end of this season. Cut our losses. There's no point trying to persuade him to have another contract and then to loan him out for 5 years. I mean, respectfully to the caller who suggested that. I think we're past the point of return.
Can you imagine we renew his contract? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No.
can you imagine we renew his contract and immediately announce a 4-year loan to Bristol City or something like that?
Oh God!
With no
Oh, God.
callback option or anything like that.
No. But I am worried about our squad depth, particularly in the midfield, and I feel like this has been a thing from the last 2 Wenger years, right through from the Emery team. Even in the days of like Guendouzi and those guys, and we just seem to focus. Yes, it's good that we focus on strikers, but we need to focus on really building up, our reserve midfield as well. And I'm very worried about that personally.
Do you think, mate, that football is a funny game? The landscape changes very quick. Your emotions change very quick. But after an upset like that in a competition that we hold quite dear to our hearts, a competition that we do quite well in historically, do you think that, given that poor result, given the difficult fixtures that we have now, do you think that this could be the start of a potential change in the fan base once again, in the ever-changing landscape that is Arsenal fandom, and the pressure on Mikel Arteta? You look at Liverpool, the Tottenham games. Do you think that those could start to rack up the pressure once again on Mikel Arteta?
I mean, I don't know if the problem is Mikel Arteta.
Mhm.
I think the problem is the club management. They just seem to be. I mean, we had this, as I said, we had this in the Sanlehi era as well. We had this in the Gazidis era as well. It just seems to be that the business side of the club doesn't seem to have its books in order. So for a top four team, that is, or a team that intends to be top four. I'm not particularly sure what ratcheting the pressure up on Arteta will achieve at this point. The Tottenham game, I'm not too fussed about the Liverpool game. I know heresy, but I might even give it give it a miss for my own sanity. At least the first round of it. The Tottenham game, we have to win that, and if we don't, I've written off everything this season. Simple. That is an absolute must win. If we don't win that, then forget it.
So here's the question. Then. We've just come off of 6 weeks where we've pretty much handily taken care of lower level Premier League teams. We've put in a performance that, while it didn't, could easily and should easily have resulted in a win against the best team, the de facto best team in the world right now. And again, I'm not going to get in an argument about, yes, we lost. It wasn't good enough. Individual players. I'm not blaming the ref. All right, we've come off of 6 to 7 weeks where we've done everything we possibly need to do in the league, and just shit the bed today in the FA Cup. Do you feel as though today's game has a direct negative impact on our ability to beat Spurs next Sunday? Because I don't.
I'll be honest with you. You'll say last 6 weeks, but don't forget the Everton game.
Mhm.
It wasn't before 6 weeks?
When was it? It was in December, wasn't it? Can someone get the exact date of that? I think it was December the 6th or something like that.
Well, that wasn't within the. Okay, yeah, no, that was. I'm pretty much talking about every game since the Arsenal Everton game. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean,
yeah.
When I say 6, yeah, it was December the 6th, my friend. All right, so the last month, 6 games, is what I meant.
Yeah. No, it's too hard to tell, because the thing is, that's the problem with Arsenal right at the moment. We're just so erratic, That's the thing. It could be that we could totally go in and boss Spurs. That has happened. And knowing Arsenal, it probably will happen. But then it could be that, we could just be abysmal like we were. Well, maybe not as bad as today, because today we wouldn't be as bad as today. But it's too hard to call at this stage.
Maybe it's me. I just don't see any relationship between today's game and Spurs next Sunday. It's hopefully, now again, AFCON, COVID, we don't know. Hopefully 2 completely different squads, different things to play for, different mentality. I mean, and I would say the same thing in the sense of, when we won 6-0 against West Brom earlier this season, that didn't give me any more hope that we were going to come out and destroy the next Premier League team we played. I mean, it would be nice to be able to just be firing on all cylinders on all 3 competitions that we have this season. And I really thought that we had the mentality to do that. But ultimately, we ran up against a Nottingham Forest team that was average and was playing their ass off.
No. I hear you, mate. I hear you. But I just feel like, because today's if it was, I'm trying to think about it. Okay, let's take the Man United performance. Yeah, we weren't good enough. We were pretty shambolic, but that's what we were, shambolic. Yeah. Today we were diabolical, like just not even in it. That's what makes me worry. It's not necessarily that this game has a bearing on the Spurs game. It's that we were just completely not. We could have been down to 7 men and it wouldn't have made much of a difference. I mean, by then we would have forfeited, of course, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm just giving an example. I mean, that has happened in like obviously my home country, Turkey. That has happened in like the Turkish league where my team Beşiktaş has gone down to like 8 men, 7 men. You know, and yeah, that could we could have gone down to like 8 men or whatever, and it wouldn't have made a huge. That's what worries me. Not that we lost, not that we're out of the FA Cup, not that we were chaotic, but it was just like we were almost. It felt like we were in training. That and that worries me.
Well, we've seen that, Owen, with when we switch the team up a lot. We almost always have the first half that we had today, like the disjointed lack of any kind of togetherness as far as attack or. I mean, were we pressing or were we playing, the ball outside to cross into the middle? I don't know what we were doing today, and that seems to happen a lot when we switch the team up too much.
Yeah, well, it's obviously because there's a few instrumental characters within that side that really push that urgency, that passion, that pressing style out onto the rest of the players. As good as Bukayo Saka is and as good as Martin Odegaard is, these are players maybe not with the characteristics. Can
I just say one thing about Xhaka? Sorry, guys.
Yeah, go ahead, mate.
Yeah. Obviously, I know, Sophie from Highbury Squad and everyone else is gonna, is critical of Xhaka, and so am I. But this is what worries me. A player like Xhaka, who is quite, let's say, inconsistent in temperament, to say the least. A player like that, if we've made him if he's so central to our team, then we really do need to, work on that, because that is worrying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just, look, I think it's going to be a case of, like I mentioned earlier, it's just a slow process of weeding out the if you want to call them weak-minded players that we have within this squad, and bringing in more positive influences, the likes of Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, Gabriel Magalhaes, players like this.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
it's just going to take some time, I think.
I mean, that's one thing I would say about. I mean, Leno was probably the best player, but also I am really a big fan of Aaron Ramsdale's leadership qualities, and I don't think Leno has them. Not in the same way.
Let's we're going to talk about that. We'll start with Colin on that, because Colin's up next, Glitch, and we appreciate your contributions. You're getting some love.
Cheers, guys.
You're getting some love from the chat. You got Mark Backridden saying spot on. There was another Hendon Gooner who's been spitting facts both pregame and postgame today. Says you're spot on. I mean, it isn't an easy one to take, but I think we are learning a little bit more about this squad. And like Owen has said, we're not the finished article. I don't know if Owen said that or not, but I'm paraphrasing. We're not the finished article. I dearly, dearly wish today had not happened. That sucks, but I don't think it undoes everything that has been done so far, and I'm perfectly willing to listen to those who say that it has. And I'm seeing a lot of chat going on in the chat. We love it. We want the chat to be up. You're perfectly entitled to stay in the chat, but we would love for you to come into the open mic session, GoonerOpenMic.com. There are spots open, and we've got about 5-10 more minutes before we end the show. So feel free to come in. Glitch, always good to see you, mate. I'm glad that we got the lighting issues worked out.
Yeah.
And hope you'll join us again for a future show.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
All right, man. Take care, buddy. Oop, that's not what I meant to do. What the hell do I do now? Okay. This is what happens when I host the show after having multiple Peronis and Heinekens. So what do? I'm going to have another one. All right, I'm seeing a lot of chatter about the Chambers thing. Now, Callum Chambers is someone who I believe is a good second or third option in whatever position you might have him play. Right back, defensive midfield, center back.
Mhm.
It's important for me to clarify second or third option, because I've never said he's good enough to start for the Arsenal, not if we have the ambitions that we should have. And I'm seeing Lone Star Londoner and in the chat, and a couple other people in the chat who are saying he's nowhere good enough to be in this club. My question is, in this situation today, where we were with the depth or lack of it, would he maybe have been a better choice than Charlie Patino?
But devil's advocate, Michael, is he worth, maybe if Mikel Arteta again potentially sees him as a player that doesn't have a prolonged future at Arsenal, so somebody who isn't going to be here for the long term, and Charlie Patino is the sort of hot tip next academy graduate, the next one in the line of succession to break into the squad. And let's be very, very honest. People can have their criticisms of Mikel Arteta. I can guarantee you that 99% of Arsenal fans would have started Charlie Patino for this game. Everybody was gunning to see this guy. Everybody really wanted to see him. And look, he didn't have a bad performance, not at all. I think he was good in patches, little patches here and there, but he's just not completely up to speed of the senior game just yet.
Well, yeah, and look, again, I'm not criticizing. I'm not even trying to retrofit my opinion. I've just seen a lot of people that said we had no other options, and this was before the game too. Like who else can you possibly start? Elneny? No. Mainsley? No. Xhaka? No. Partey? No. There was literally nobody, but we had a guy who was actually experienced in playing that position.
Can I just respond to one thing before we bounce on? Because Sophie, my darling, she says, so what? Just because they wanted him to start doesn't mean he's immune to criticism, basically. And no, I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is to criticize the decision to include him after the fact, after the majority would have made the decision to include him in the first place, is silly. That's my point, is that you can't ask for something and then moan about getting it after the fact. That you sort of have to you have to take responsibility for what you wanted to see. And unfortunately, today it didn't really pay off, but in the future, hopefully, it does.
Well, and frankly, I think anybody who plays in the starting 11 for Arsenal in any level in any competition should be subject to criticism. Mm-hmm. There should be nobody that's shielded from it. So if we're criticizing Patino for his play today, I think that's valid. Mm-hmm. I'm not ready to bin him over it. But to criticize him over his performance today, I mean, he was put in a position maybe that he shouldn't have been put in. And that's my question about Chambers is was a guy who was player of the year for Fulham, admittedly a lower level, Premier League team at the time, someone who could have done a better job. And I said earlier in the show, I don't think that's what made or break the game. That is not what decided the game tonight. Patino was never going to win the game tonight for us, and he was likely not to lose the game for us tonight.
Should we ask our next guest's opinion on this? Because this is actually
I think we should. And that's expert co-hosting right there. I was getting a little stuck up on this. Colin from Richmond is going to come in and tell us everything we need to know about Patino, about Nketiah, about Siad Kolasinac, about Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and about Mbappe.
Wow, no pressure.
So Ricky Fowler's with us today, and so again, the invitation's open. You're getting a lot of people asking you to join the show today, and you are free to do so. You know how to.
We demand Soph.
Soph is in high demand, but Colin, since we don't have Soph, we have a lesser. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
You've been with us the last few weeks after some really good performances. So let's hear your take about this one today.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a great chat. So far this has been an awesome conversation, just in the chat and obviously here with the videos and stuff. It's been a lot of good stuff. Because it is a confusing one. I think that there's a lot of different opinions out there just because it is kind of a head scratcher of why we fell so flat on our faces today. When there weren't really any signs of that over the last month. And I think the reality is I kind of want to just chalk it up to being an off day. I think that especially in the first half, it looked like the players didn't really come expecting that level of intensity from Forest, which you can certainly place on the players. You can also certainly place that on the manager, in my opinion, of him not doing a good enough job of making sure that their heads are in the right place, because it looked really, really lackadaisical in that first half. And I believe that the Nuno substitution, while he did draw my eye as being one of the sort of worst underperformers in that first half, it was a wake-up call for sure, I think, is what that, because I saw Sophie mention earlier that Arteta could have just as easily taken out Cedric and put in Chambers. And I agree with that. I think it was sort of one where he wasn't really happy with any of how the team was playing in that first half. But you can't, you don't want to.
You can't make five substitutes.
Exactly. You don't want to use 2 or 3 of your subs in that first half, and so he kind of had to, I think, take a stand and make a choice. And I do think that not only did he take out one of the worst underperformers, but he brought in one of the leaders of this team, and one of the players who is most likely to come in and maybe just help everyone settle down, focus on the simple stuff, get these passes
which is
right.
how it looked at the time. Now,
yeah.
The moment that he brought in Tierney, I got excited because the odds of Tierney scoring a goal in the game were 28-1. Not the first goal, any goal. So I immediately went and put a tenner on it. Actually, I put 2 tenners on it. I was about to get rich, but no, money out the window.
Here's an interesting one for the both of you, and whichever one of you want to jump in on this. Dan Robert, who was just on with us, who I accidentally blocked, by the way, Dan. I'm very sorry for that.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That.
Like,
you got a 5-minute timeout, and I'm like, shit, did I do that?
No, I did
not.
No,
it was
sorry.
The Irish guy.
But he says that Cedric was average today, not the worst, not the best. Somebody that I was looking at during that game, and I know that right back alternatives is something that maybe the club are looking at in January, if not the summer. Spence for Nottingham Forest today, I think, was by a country mile the best player on the pitch. Do you think that that's a possible option that we could look at? Another one of these coups, one of these little hidden gems that we could try and pluck out as backup for Tomiyasu. Do you think that he is somebody that could potentially fill that gap?
Absolutely. He definitely drew the eye of pretty much all of us today. I saw a lot of praise for him on Twitter and stuff like that during the game. I was really impressed with him. But I mean, if we've got Cedric as our backup and we've got Chambers available and he's not even making it into this 11, that doesn't exactly instill a lot of confidence in terms of our other options right now.
Nottingham Forest has a right back who can't even make it into their game day squad. He hasn't featured for them all season, and he's healthy. He featured 128 minutes all of last season despite being healthy. And he's just sitting there, and his name is Carl Jenkinson. So I mean, it's crazy. He was told he was not welcome at Nottingham Forest, and he still hasn't found another club. Like I feel bad for the guy because I like him as a person.
Yeah.
But all right, so would that? I mean, so would you have preferred Carl Jenkinson to Cedric and or Chambers in this game? Is the question I'm wondering. But I can't find your answer out right away because you're in your pajamas. Sorry, Colin.
But that's not Sophie. Jesus Christ, man.
That's me completely like ruining your flow.
No, that's okay.
No, Colin. So just before we finish up, final thoughts. Where does this leave Arsenal? Where does this leave Mikel Arteta? Do you expect him to be bringing any reinforcements in January? And do you think after a performance like this, has this reminded us that this top four push may not be sustainable, and we may be sort of wishful thinking to believe that we can actually achieve that this season?
I don't think top four is wishful thinking. And a lot of that is due to the fact that if we're looking at the other teams that are also challenging for that fourth spot, I don't think we're any worse off than they are. West Ham also has an extremely thin squad. Tottenham has started really, really well in the Conte era, but over the last week or two, we are still seeing that they've got a lot of issues there with just their personnel, issues that Conte may not be able to overcome. And United can't figure out how to play as a team. They've got 11 big guys that don't want to play with each other. So no part of me thinks that a top four is wishful thinking. Now, big part of that absolutely depends on what we've got going on in the next few weeks, of course. But the good news is this is the hardest period, right? We're without Partey and we're without El Neni. Xhaka hopefully will be better back in time, at least for the North London derby. Probably not for the game at Anfield on Thursday, but Arteta's going to know more than anyone. I'm sure he already knew before this game that there's some business that's absolutely vital to these last 4 or 5 months of the season, and all this game did was hopefully give him more ammo to take to the board of, look how close we are. I just need a few more pieces and we can really take this thing over the line.
Well, hopefully we can chalk this up to a one-off. I mean, it's a one-off that hurts because we don't get another chance in the FA Cup this season. If you're in the chat right now, look. I don't want to tell you how to think, and I'm not trying to profess any kind of a take for this. But if you're in the chat saying Arteta is done, and I've seen a few different people doing that, have a look in the mirror. And I mean, he wasn't on the pitch today, and if this was like an accelerating travesty of poor outcomes that were clearly down to making the wrong decisions, then fine. But you're going to say Arteta is done after the last 6 games, not 6 weeks, as I've been told. At this point, I mean, hold your horses a little bit and let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks, because there is certainly the potential for a downslide. We could get knocked out of 2 competitions and take a big hit in the third if things don't work out in the next couple of weeks. But we could also, recover from this and reach a final at Wembley and defeat our vaunted rivals, who are not as good as people think they are. They get battered everywhere they go. So how about let's give it another few weeks and see what happens. Is that so wrong?
That's very fair. I think
Is it fair?
Fair. Yeah, it's very fair. Yeah.
This loss doesn't seem. I don't know. I don't put a huge amount of blame on Arteta for this one. To me, it doesn't really. I didn't think the tactics were inept. I thought the starting 11, when I saw it, was like, yeah, this should absolutely be a team that beats Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
It didn't really seem like he was over-rotating. Owen, to your point earlier, that midfield is kind of like, yeah, that's what everyone would have done. That's what we have. I do think that with the benefit of hindsight, it really did feel like they were drowning a little bit. with just the two of them. I think that if you'd had one of the two of them with one of the more experienced midfielders, I think there would have been a lot more composure in that part of the pitch.
So if Arteta chose not to start ESR because he didn't feel like it, if he chose not to start, Gabriel because he didn't feel like it, if he chose not to start Xhaka because he didn't feel like it, or Tomiyasu, and took his game lightly and thought he could skate away with it. You could look back at his choices, but he didn't have any of those players available.
Let me add some balance to this here, because
we're gonna end in 2 minutes.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, I was absolutely for Mikel Arteta being moved on after the exit from Europa League last season. I was completely for Mikel Arteta to be moved on. Right up until after the first 3 games, I was completely up for Mikel Arteta to be gone, but you can't sack a manager while we're sitting fourth in the Premier League. It's just silly, And for me, my target was always, let's see where we are by Christmas. We're sitting pretty at Christmas, probably higher than everybody expected. So wait until the end of the season. Everybody is putting it in the chat, and I completely agree. Europe is the minimum, but to say that Mikel Arteta has no responsibility for this result whatsoever just isn't how football works. It's a results business.
Fair.
He deserves some criticism. If we lose against Liverpool, if we lose against Spurs, if we lose against Liverpool again, criticism starts to mount and pressure starts to build. But let's just be realistic.
Everybody deserves criticism. Anyone who wants to dish out criticism at any of the pieces of the puzzle today, I think it was well within their rights to do so.
Mm-hmm.
When the criticism becomes determinate, and by that I mean when it's like, this means he should be done. Or
my advice to anybody putting in Arteta is done or Arteta is out or blah blah blah, just elaborate on your point and the reasons why, because when you break stuff down, it becomes more digestible. People tend to take it on board a bit more when it's explained a bit more.
Yeah. Were you asking me to do that, or was that just a general?
No, that was just people in the chat.
Okay, good.
It's fine to hold that viewpoint, but just elaborate on it slightly.
Okay, well, I'll elaborate on it on the Bearded Gooner show, because what we're going to do now, we're going to finish this very successful first episode on Lee Judges TV of the Open Mic show. We had a lot of our regular viewers on tonight. And by regular viewers, I mean the people that have seen us on the Gooners pod. Owen and I and a few of our mates do a podcast. We're in our 6th season. It's pretty cool. You should check it out. It's called the Gooners Pod. You can follow us at the Gooners Pod. Go to YouTube, to goonersubscribe.com, and join us. It's a good time, good guests when we feel like it. But we're going to be doing these more often. We're going to do it on the Lee Judges TV. Every once in a while, we might even do it on the Highbury squad. But this is our chance to kind of all talk to people who might not have the time or desire to do their own podcasts. And Colin is a great example of that. Great takes, great gooner, and we've seen you plenty of times after the games on the Open Mic show. So I want to see more new faces, though, in future weeks. Go to GoonerOpenMic.com. That will always be the link. And wherever we're broadcasting, you can join us. So thanks, Colin, for joining us. Appreciate it. Right now, you'll get another hour and a half or so of post-game on the Bearded Gooner channel. So go to Bearded Gooner on YouTube. I don't have a link for you, but there's only so many Bearded Gooners on YouTube. I am one, but I'm not the one. So do that. Colin, enjoyed talking to you again, buddy. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
All right, mate. Take care. And the last thing I will say again, for the final time, is if you haven't gone to GoonersVCancer.com, please do that, because this is something you are going to want to win, and all you got to do to win is donate to an amazing cause, which is Gooners v Cancer. And so I'm going to play this one more time, and then we'll be out. So take care, Gooners, and we'll see you on Thursday evening.